I've never been to Japan, nor have I held a katana before. What's up guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. This one is about masking in Affinity Photo for the iPad. And I know it's been super long overdue due to foreseeable circumstances, but we're here today. That's all that's important, and I'm glad you're here with me. Now before we begin, listen to this phrase. It's very important. Black conceals and white reveals. With that information, you just learned 90% of what masking is. The other 10%, I'm gonna be teaching you. So what is masking? Masking is basically just a feature in Affinity Photo and many other Photoshop-like applications that allow us to show or hide certain aspects of our document, restricting its visibility. Practically, there will be two situations where you'll be using masking the most. The first one is in compositing, or basically the process where we combine or mash up different parts of multiple images into one main composition. That gives us creative freedom to create entirely new images, even those that don't exist, like putting myself in a country vacationing and I've never been to this country. The second situation that you'll be using masking is for whenever you want to apply certain adjustments or filters selectively to certain areas of an image. Anything from brightness, blurs, sharpenings, filters, distortions. Instead of just slapping it on everything, you can select certain parts of an image. Let's say my face, I want it to be a little bit more brighter, or I want the background to be a little bit less saturated. I can do that with masking. Another question that might pop up is, what's so different between masking and the eraser? Doesn't the eraser also just hide certain aspects of the image? Well, the difference between the masking tool and the eraser tool is because the eraser actually deletes the pixels, whereas masking basically hides it by giving a photo values of white and black that you determine. That means that if we ever want to change something in the future, we can. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's dive into this photo. We're going to be recreating this photo here, but we're going to recreate it using the principles that we learned theoretically like just now. So let's go. Alright guys, so to recreate this image here, which is right here, which is the finished product, we're not gonna focus on this right now. What we're gonna do is we're gonna bring it down. We're gonna hide it first, and we're gonna bring it down. So just ignore this last layer here. We're gonna focus on these three layers here, which are the photo of me on the wall, the background layer of some temple in Japan, and of course a Japanese katana. Right? These two images I found online on Google just randomly, and this one I shot myself. Okay, so we are going to focus on the background first. So I'm gonna hide myself and the katana so that you guys don't get distracted. And we're gonna take this background, we're gonna zoom out a bit, and we're just gonna take the pen and just increase it to a size that we feel is good, right? I'm kind of gonna increase the size just a little bit because since the photo isn't a full body, it makes sense that it only reaches up to here. Alright, that's a good place to be in. And now let's focus on the person, which is probably the hardest thing. So I'm gonna hide the background because it's practically ready. And we'll go to this image of me. Now, this photo looks alright, but this is probably just a personal thing for me. I just don't like this side of me, and so I'm going to flip it. To flip it, you have to go to this thing here, this icon here. I guess it's a transform box area, and come over to where it says flip and rotate right here in this icon. You tap it and it flips it. You can do other things also, like, but yeah. Anyways, after we're finished with that, we're going to mask it, right? Basically, we're going to tell the program what to hide and what to show. Now to do that, we're going to switch personas. Right now, we're in the photo persona, but we need to go to the selections persona. So we can select what part of the photo we want to hide and what part of the photo we want to show. So let's go to the selections persona and come over here to the brushes, and we're going to choose freehand selection. There are multiple ways for you to select the area that you want to show, but for the purposes of today's video, we're just going to go with the freehand selection tool. Maybe in the future, I will make a video dedicated to just all the ways that you can select, but for now, just trust me, use the freehand selection tool. The smart selection tool, sorry. Oops. Yeah, it's called the smart selection tool because it's very smart. Anyways, with that selected, you can edit the size of your brush. I usually like to go for at least a relatively bigger brush because it takes less strokes to select. So we're just gonna select it. It's smart because it can detect the edges for you and like really give you an easy time selecting. So of course it's not perfect, but we're going to refine it later. We just need a quick brush pass to get majority of what we want, right? Alright, so after that, you're gonna go into the deep areas, tweak the size of your brush, and add the parts that they did not add, like this. As you can see, there's some parts that they took of the wall. Just change the mode from add to subtract, and just start subtracting. Of course, right here as well. And here, the space in between, you can just go give it a little brush pass, check it. Look here, they cut off a piece of my hair, change it to add. Right here, subtract, lower the brush size so that it can fit. And it's looking good. So after you're done selecting, go over here and press to refine it. Now this basically shows you what is in selection and what isn't. So whatever isn't is in red, which is here, and whatever is just normal color. Now, in this case, it's gonna be pretty hard to see, so sometimes you can change the preview to different previews, like black matte, which everything that's hidden is in black. White matte, everything is hidden in white. Transparent, which is probably the best one. And there's multiple ways. So what you want to do in this stage is go where the hair is and just brush it over a bit so the Affinity photo can take a look at it and actually help select the hairs in between. Okay. Yeah, and now you're done. Select the output to mask and apply. As you can see, I am now separated from the background. And if you check the layer, you can see that it has a new group. It has the group of the image and a new mask layer, and this is how masks work. If you look closely, you can see that the background is black and my person is white. And what did I say at the beginning? I said black conceals and white reveals, right? Beautiful. Now let's hide my person now and go over to the katana, which is same similar process. I'm gonna go really quickly, select the smart selection brush, zoom it in a bit, customize my brush size and just do a quick pass, right? Of course, when you do your work, make sure to really focus on the edges. For me, on the purpose of this tutorial, and not to bore you to death, I'm just gonna do it rather quickly and just kind of make it look half decent for y'all. Alright, so now we're done. Mask that. Sometimes the masks seem to escape the image, so make sure you just bring that and hook it together. Yeah. Anyways, as you can see, it did a rather terrible job with this one, which usually occurs whenever the image that you got is pretty like pixelated and not like high resolution. And so if you want to fix this, it's easy. Just go to where the mask is, right? Don't select the image because you're going to draw over it. But go to the mask make sure it's selected, and we're gonna go back to the photo persona, go to the brushes, and then we're gonna go over here and select, I like to select a softer brush, right? And now, because you've selected a mask layer, colors work very differently. So if you have black, it will conceal parts of the image. And if you have white, it will reveal them. In this case, we have a bunch of random things on the side that we want to eliminate. So we're gonna be choosing a black. And it's basically just adjusting the size. I usually like having my hardness just a little bit below 100 to soften it up. And now we just go and clean things up. Oops, undo. Yeah, so this is a way how you can easily clean up pieces of your photo just by doing this. Okay, I'm kind of okay with this for now. I'd spend more time on it, but whatever. All right, so now that we have all our three pieces together, let's bring them all up. Boom, boom, boom. As you can see, it's coming along quite nicely, don't you think? All right, so now, just gonna open them all up. Okay, what we're gonna do now is we're going to start positioning them. So make sure you select the layer, not the mask, because okay, if you select the mask and you try to move it, you're removing the mask, right? We don't want that. So make sure you select the image, not the mask. There's a difference. So yeah, select the image. I'm just gonna position myself somewhat where I want it to be, like probably over here. The background, let's just raise it a little bit higher. And then the katana, what I like to do is I like to go over with these layers selected, go to the three dot menu and lower its opacity, right? Just a little bit so that I can kind of see how it looks as I hold it, you know, or where it would have to go. Like, I don't want it to look unrealistic now. So something like that would probably be very realistic, like so. Or something like that. And then I'd bring it back up. Go back. All right, so this is looking rather great. Now, there's only one problem. Well, there's actually two problems, but we're gonna tackle the hardest one first, which is this. We want the sword to be behind the person, and so these parts where it's over it need to be hidden, while the ones that are outside of it, they can be as is. So similar approach. We're gonna tap the mask layer of the image, and we're gonna go back to the brushes. We're going to make sure it's on black. Then what I like to do is similar. Lower the opacity a bit, so you can see where your hands would be. And now you just customize the length and you just brush over it, like. If you make a mistake like me here, you just go press the white, lower just a little bit, and bring that information back. That's a really power of masking. Right, you can spend a lot more time and do a lot more things to make it look even more realistic, but I'm just teaching you the basics for now. All right, and when you're done, make sure you go back and up the opacity. What I'd probably do is just hide this area, because I don't think we need it. Exactly. So now check this out. We got some realistic looking composite here. Of course, my hand should have probably be a little bit more, you know, better angled, but for composite, it's actually not too bad. Now there's one thing I want to do. I feel like the background is very busy for what I'm trying to do. So I'm gonna go to the background and I'm gonna go to effects and I'm gonna go to Gaussian blur, which basically just blurs it. So increase the radius just by slightly. As you can see, you can already create some fake looking depth of field just by doing that. Great. And we're practically done, right? We've composited an entirely new image based off of 3 images, right? We've basically composited it and it looks rather realistic. I mean, I'd much rather go to Japan than edit a photo of me being in Japan, but this is some pretty cool stuff. Now, what masking allows you to do is, now that all the photo is basically separated into its individual parts, such as background, foreground, and this item here, you can do multiple things to affect the image. For example, I'm gonna go and say I want my background to be a little bit darker. I feel like it's too bright. So I will just go to the adjustments or filters. I can never understand the right name. I think it's adjustments, yes. Go to where it says brightness and contrast. Well, better yet, let's use exposure, right? As you can see, it brings up a context menu where you can just raise or lower the exposure. So that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna raise it up to an ungodly amount, right? Just for you to see. Actually, we're gonna lower it, right? Darker. Right? I'm gonna darken it just a little bit. If you go back to the layers panel, look what happened. The adjustment layer was placed here. And what you have to know about the layers panel, which I made a video on before that you can watch, anything below the adjustment layer is affected, while everything on top does not. So if I placed my adjustment layer on top of everything, it means everything is gonna get affected by this adjustment layer, which is making everything dark. The exposure is low. Now, the cool thing about masking is, now that we've been able to separate all these 3 images, we can drop this adjustment layer into any one of these and specifically only affect it. So let's say if I only wanted the sword to be dark, I can just drop it like this over it, only the sword is dark. If I dropped it over myself, I'm the only one dark. And if I dropped it over the background, only the background is dark. And that is super, super powerful. And there's a whole bunch of things you can do. You can exposure, you can do invert, lens filter, posterize, recolor, all of these effects, adjustments, even filters, you know, dust and scratches, halftone. Oh, let's try halftone actually. All right, let's select myself. We're gonna go to the filters and we're gonna go to halftone. As you can see, I affected myself with a cool halftone effect. And I can change it to monochrome, color, and I can mess around with all of these dials to see what I like. All right, this one looks actually quite nice. Screen angle, not sure what I'm doing. Contrast, you can just mess around with it. And you can see I can create super awesome new original images based off of all other types of images. So what happens if you have one image that's already done and you just want to make selective edits to pieces of it? Do we still have to separate this one image into 3 images and then put them back together?
No. Of course not.
No, that would be way too hard. And so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna turn our whole work, right? Okay, let's delete this exposure adjustment. Our 3 parts of our image, I'm going to combine them into a group, right? And I'm going to turn it into just one image, right? Instead of all these 3, I'm gonna rasterize it, which basically just turns it into one image, right? Now we have just one image. The negative effect of that is you're not able to edit it anymore, but we don't need to edit it anymore. I'm gonna show you what happens. All right, so what you're gonna do, So you have your image here, one image, and you want to selectively brighten the face, right? How are you gonna do that? There are multiple ways you can do this, right? But I feel like the easiest way, the least complicated way, is to just go to the adjustments, find the one you want. We're gonna do brightness, right? As you can see, if you go back to the layers panel, it creates an adjustment layer, right? We're gonna up it up just a considerable amount so you can see what is going on. Okay, this is terribly not what we want. We don't want it to affect the entire image. We just want it to affect my face. So what will we do? With this done, we're gonna go over here to the channels, right? I don't really know what's going on here, but what I do know is if you go over to where it says layer, right here, you can invert the mask, because currently the mask is all white, which means everything is being revealed. When we invert it, we turn it all black and it hides it. So we're gonna invert it. As you can see, everything is back to the way it was. Going back to the layers panel, you see the layer is now dark. What this allows us to do is now, if you remember correctly, if we go to the brushes, we can now paint in certain colors, and that gives us certain things. So for example, now make sure we have the soft brush selected, make sure we have the mask selected, make sure we have our color to not black, because we want parts of the filter. Oh, Siri, stop. What the hell?
To do that, you'll need to be online.
Really, Siri? Get away. Anyways, we want some parts of the image to show, or some parts of the effect, which is the brightness effect, to pop out. So we're gonna turn it to white. We're gonna go zoom in on my face. We're going to edit. We're gonna make it a little bit big, wide. We want the flow to be a little bit lower, hardness way low, because we kind of want it to just be puffed up, right? Okay, opacity, lower that a little bit as well. And look what happens. I'm gonna just paint, and as you can see, I am slowly painting my face brighter than everything else. And this is probably not what you want to do with your photo, but as a concept, it's perfect. So let me just do that with the rest of my skin here. Oh, I changed the color. Whoops, white. Yeah. And what this is doing is this. I'm not actually painting white. If you're thinking that, I'm painting whatever the adjustment layer is being shown. So if you take a look at the adjustment layer, you can see that on this image, I'm painting white, which is showing the effect of the adjustment layer, but only to the parts that I paint white. Everywhere that's black, the effect will not show. And another way to show you that I'm not actually painting white is, since it's an adjustment layer, if I tap the adjustment layer 2 times, I have full control over it after the fact. Let's say I didn't like how bright it was. I can lower the brightness or up it up. You know, I can lower the brightness, I can up the brightness, I can lower the brightness. And this is so different than if you were just painting it like that, because then you wouldn't have control. You wouldn't have control after the fact. And this is how you can selectively control different parts of your image. Another way to apply adjustments is by doing it directly from a selection. So let's say I want to select the background and change it, right? I only have one image. I don't want to split it into 3 and do all of that. I can just do it like this. So in the selections persona, go to your smart selection tool, and I'm gonna select myself. I'll tell you why later, but just trust me. I know what I'm doing. Alright, now that you have a decently nice selection, what you're gonna do is, while in selections persona, because if you're in any other, it won't work, right? Gotta fix that eye. In selections persona, you hold your finger, one finger down, let go, you'll see an invert selection, right? While I could have just went directly to select the background, it's just gonna be a little bit harder, especially depending on what background you have, right? Or what you have to select. And so this way is much better because I just have to select myself and then invert it, and anything else outside is probably the background. So I'm gonna invert it. Now you can see the little marching ants around the background. We're ready. Now just go to, with everything here all set and ready, go to adjustments, select the adjustment you want. We're gonna be choosing recolor, and see what happens. As you can see, we automatically applied this adjustment layer to the selection. And when we're done, all we gotta do now is just hold it, deselect, right? And now, check what's happening here. The mask that was usually by default, it shows all white, right? Is now already tailor-made for our selection. Right? The black means the person is not being affected by this adjustment layer, and the white means the effect is showing through. Right? So now with this recolor adjustment, we have a lot of options here to just change the color. So you can slide this hue slider, and we can already begin to start changing the image to how we want. We can even change it, for example, the saturation. We can make it gray, we can make it, you know, the lightness. There's really no bounds to what you could do. And yeah, so these are the different ways that you can selectively adjust, especially if you only have one photo and you're not doing any compositing work. This is how you do it. And that is the power of masking. It's really the basis of everything we do as like photo manipulators in this Affinity Photo and Photoshop and any other program out there. Masking is basically everything. And so I'm glad and I hope that you learned something. I'm pretty sure you learned quite a bit. And yeah, let me know in the comments what else you want to know, because it's hard for me to read your minds. And so let me know what else you want to know. Selections is definitely another topic that I want to do a video on. But do let me know in the comments if you have any questions, anything like that. Talk to your boy down in the comments. And with that out of the way, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.